My name is Dr. Ryan Holsapple. I have a PhD in depth psychology, and I'm also the director of Center for Creative Choice, an entity founded by Dr. Roger Strachan in 1973. Also, around the same time, the Self-Soul-Spirit model was founded and created by Dr. Strachan. Dr. Strachan has spent the last decade plus working with me. He has trained me, and he has passed his business down to me. So I am now the one who's carrying the mantle, so to speak, carrying the torch. So, all that being said, this is the beginning of a new podcast. It's going to be called the Self-Soul-Spirit Podcast. In the Self-Soul-Spirit Podcast, we'll explore the various dimensions of the Self-Soul-Spirit model. And we will break it down into themes of relevance, as well as an overall gestalt presentation of the model and its applications. Self being that which makes us a unique entity unto itself. It encapsulates our genetics. It encapsulates the strength of our genes in the way that they meet the environment and go through our processes of brain development and protein interactions that create the form and function of the rest of our body. And self also, just in general terms, is about our subpersonalities, those parts of us that make us unique, and those parts of us that act and have their own desire and will within the world. Soul is our life force, the essence of our consciousness. Soul is also unique. And spirit is that great mystery, which could be referred to as the soul of the universe. And throughout thousands of years, we have, as a human species, created various structures around understanding spirit and spirituality, whether they be religious or shamanic or mystical. It is just a fact that we have tried to make meaning of our spiritual experiences, and that in many cases, human beings seek spiritual experiences, some more than others, depending often on their genetic predispositions and also on their unique soul. So the Self-Soul-Spirit model is broadly applicable to life. It is a wonderful psychological lens through which to understand life experience and development. And it is also very applicable to spirituality and soul in questions of existential meaning. Self-Soul-Spirit is going to be a podcast that essentially can take any topic within those three domains, self, soul, and spirit, and expand upon it in the most relevant and educational way so that the audience has a chance to reflect on their own self, their own soul, and their own spiritual experience. And we will be offering you a unique blend of science, existential philosophy, phenomenology, gestalt, therapy, and applications. And obviously, the very unique technique of therapy and approach that is self-soul-spirit. Remember, Dr. Strachan, being a clinical psychologist for over 60 years, has a very unique model to approach human development and therapeutic relationship. So I will be exploring the applications of that model with you, and all the nuances and the way in which it can apply to you and apply to your family or apply to your relationships. And for those of you that have seen our past podcasts with Dr. Strachan, you'll know a little bit about him. And yet this is going to bring a unique take to that. And I'm hoping to have him on as a guest as well as other guests. What you can really count on is that every episode will be within the confines of the Self-Soul-Spirit model. And it will be a very careful, methodical approach to the model and how it applies. And also sometimes it will be a conversational approach where we are using the model to explore a topic, or we're just talking in broader themes about self, soul, and spirit and how it all ties together. So in other words, sometimes we're going to focus in on a single topic like genetics and personality, like spiritual experiences, like brain development or other processes of development that encapsulate the process whereby genes and nurture come together, and various other microcosms within the model. And then, as I said, there will be times when we zoom way back and we look at self, soul, and spirit as a whole. So this educational journey on the Self Soul Spirit podcast is inviting to all, and we hope to see you tuning in. And I will be releasing episodes more or less regularly. I would say at least a couple a month. And so right now we're looking at August of 2024. So you'll probably get at least one podcast in August and hopefully more to come. So this is just a little teaser. And I am looking forward to having an audience. We'll have it on YouTube as well as other podcast apps like Spotify or iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. I'll make sure that it's globally available. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments because we want to address your questions. If you aren't on YouTube, then you can email Ryan at centerforcreativechoice.com. And I will do my best to address your questions throughout our series of podcasts. Another podcast topic that we'll be doing relatively soon is addiction and alcoholism. And we'll be analyzing that from the perspective of self, soul, spirit. And it'll be very fascinating to see. I'm hoping to have Dr. Strachan on as well as another alcoholism expert. So stay tuned for that. That episode will probably be within the first 3 or 4 episodes of the podcast. So anyways, I just got excited about this, so I wanted to get a little introduction out, and I wanted to prime your brain to look for some more activity here on this YouTube channel. So we'll be seeing you soon at the Self Soul Spirit podcast, hosted by Center for Creative Choice. Once again, I'm Dr. Ryan Holsapple, and it is a pleasure to be back in the podcasting world.